is up to par with it. Is that
like to heal, you know, you have to be able to believe before you even begin to pray that whatever is going to come out of your mouth is already done.
Right.
And that takes an insurmountable amount of faith to believe that, you know, to have no doubt in your mind that what I speak over this person is going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, and everyone has that faith capability. I believe it's just, you know, do we choose to use it?
It's a decision, and it really boils down to a decision. Again, he's asked about some things with feelings, and it has to break down to where when you walk this walk in your daily studies and your daily dealing with things here, you have to think, what decision am I making? What am I choosing here? To go with the ways of the world, to go with feelings, to go with the devil, to go with comfort, or am I choosing to believe God's Word no matter what? I mean, it's a choice. Irregardless of how we feel or what we see or what's happening, it has to still be a choice. How does faith come? What do you hear?
The Word.
The Word. So here, one way to look at it here is your measure of faith. The more you choose to believe what's in here, the more you got. So, you know, we use different things to measure. You got a bucket that's a gallon bucket. It's a measure of faith, or a measure of something, milk, water, whatever. You got a yardstick that measures length. You got different measuring tools. Well, inside the Bible here is the measure of your faith. Because faith comes by hearing this. So contained in here is a measure from Genesis to Revelation of all the faith you'll ever need to overcome and move every mountain that you face from today forward, if you'll take it and use that measure. But if you're using the wrong measuring stick on your problems, your circumstances, life's events, then you'll get bad results. Because like if I use a 35-inch yardstick to measure out the building here, thinking it's a yard, and it's only 35 inches, what's going to happen to your building? It's going to be all crooked and messed up when you start getting a building. So this is the measure of faith. Yes.
Whenever he was talking about how he was talking to Peter and them about how he was going to die, he said somebody would betray him. And Peter said, "No, I won't do it." And, you know, he said, "Get thee behind me, Satan." Can you explain a little to me about, I'm trying to figure out when he says, "Get thee behind me, Satan," what was he seeing in Peter that he was mixing with the devil at that time?
Well, he said that, Peter, you're thinking the thoughts of man. In other words, he was facing, knowing he was going to die, a horrible death. And any encouragement to sway from that, to avoid it, was the devil saying to him, "You don't really need to go do this." And the man side of him had to battle that. I mean, you know, you would too. If you knew you were fixing to die a horrible death, that's why in the Garden of Gethsemane he sweat like it were drops of blood. It was an emotional, that psychiatrists say that's the most emotional pain you can get, is when you start sweating and your pores break so that there's blood coming out of it instead of sweat, because you're under such stress. Well, that's where he was, and when Peter said that to him, then it was like a temptation he was having to avoid. And if you read that in there pretty good, I think he says in there that you savor the things of men instead of God. Because it's like us today, you know, we tend to want to be comfortable. Well, Peter didn't want his friend, the one he loved, Jesus, to die, and he didn't want anything to happen to him bad, so he was trying to encourage him, and he said, "Get behind me, devil." Not to Peter, not Peter get behind me, but the Spirit that was speaking through Peter. Because Peter was yielding over to a thought, which is the Spirit, yielding over to that thought that was tempting Jesus in the wrong direction, when his focus was, "I've got to go across and do this for mankind," which was a very difficult act. Yeah.
I had a question about that earlier. Somebody was talking, teacher we had in there earlier was talking about it. And I was curious, like, Jesus received like a vision or a message that he had to do this act, right? Or he knew somehow.
He knew because he was, from the very beginning of time, he had a plan. From the foundation of the earth. It was all planned out.
So he knew that when he came to earth that he was to die on the cross for the sins of mankind. And so when Spirit was speaking through Peter to Jesus, I mean, that was basically like the devil saying, he was tempting him, like you said, say, you don't have to get on the cross and do this, and then, sin could just continue to reign on the earth.
It was more appealing to his flesh than to God's salvation. Just like we face those things. When things come and tempt us, conveniences, comforts of life, that will try to tempt us to choose that instead of God's way. God didn't always promise a comfortable life. But we in America, that's all we know. We have nice air conditions, thank God for it. We have nice padded chairs here. But when I go to other countries, then many times they sit on the floor, on mud floors. There's no air conditioning. They walk for miles in the pouring rain to get there. They're stopping when they get there. It's not like this, but they choose that because they're hungry for God. They want God's way. But we here in America, we don't see that much, but we do battle it in that, churches divide over it, what color the carpet's going to be or something stupid like that has nothing to do with God. But yet they fuss and fight over it. But why? Because they're yielding to carnality, those kind of spirits. And what Jesus is saying is much more severe than that. But what he's saying is, get those thoughts behind me. I don't want to hear them. Now, let's just go a step further. When I am having to believe God, and it's tribulation, a mental battle, because everything I'm seeing and feeling and tasting and touching is screaming at me, this is not working. You're not going to get it this time. Every time that I'm in that situation, it's not easy at that moment. And so if I hear the slightest thing that would encourage me along the way of the negative and reinforce it, which the devil sets up things to say and do, relatives, well-meaning people, friends, TV programs, radio programs, preachers, all kinds of stuff, to try to make me accept that negative way, then I have to realize that, and I have to either turn the TV off, turn the radio off, I have to go alone, get away from the person, who's ever the temptation there. They have no idea they're doing it. It's just that I'm in a particular battle to see victory in an area of what I'm using my faith for, and then anything contrary to that, I cannot put up with it. It has to go. That's where Jesus wants it. It's just like, I personally believe that faith is the basis of it all. You've got to study and live the faith life. Anything else, history is fine. I like history. But I need to hear how to live by faith, because there's a continual battle for my soul trying to steal me away from the faith that I know is right. And so if I don't walk in it and practice it and use it, then it's like a muscle that becomes weak, and you can't use that anymore. And anything that would try to tempt me away from it, for whatever reason, I've got to sever that relationship. I used to love the news. I watched the news, the 9 o'clock news, the 10 o'clock news, 11 o'clock news, and after they was off, I watched CNN all night. I love the news. I wanted to hear what was happening around the world. But then the Lord challenged me and said, why don't you spend that kind of time in the good news? And at first I didn't receive it. I love the news.